Hello, I'm Samantha Simmons. This is the Iran War Today, our daily briefing, bringing you up to date with all you need to know on day 71 of the US-Israel war with Iran. Let's start with some of today's key developments. The UK announces the Royal Navy destroyer HMS Dragon is being sent to the Middle East, where it could join a potential international mission to safeguard shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. US President Donald Trump is still waiting for Iran's response to a peace proposal aimed at ending the conflict. Bahrain says it's detained 41 people accused of links with Iran's Revolutionary Guard. For weeks, Bahrain was one of the Gulf states most affected by the war, with Iranian strikes targeting its civilian and energy infrastructure. And Lebanese officials say Israeli strikes on southern Lebanon have killed at least 7 people, despite a ceasefire agreed last month. The UK's Ministry of Defence says the Royal Navy destroyer HMS Dragon is being sent to the Middle East from the eastern Mediterranean. Officials say it could form part of an operation to defend commercial shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, but only once hostilities cease between Iran and US-Israeli forces. The relocation of HMS Dragon to the Middle East follows France's decision to deploy its carrier strike group to the southern Red Sea, as the two countries work together on a defensive plan aimed at ensuring freedom of navigation in the strait. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley explains what's behind this move.
That is a bit of a sign, I think, that the UK wants to be part of any international effort to try and open up the strait. Remember that they don't want to get involved with anything that President Trump is doing unilaterally, because the UK is worried about how that might pan out. But for weeks now, the Prime Minister has been talking to other European leaders and to some others on the international stage about how to potentially help with any effort that was a multilateral one to ensure freedom of navigation in a defensive or non-aggressive way is perhaps the better way of putting it.
President Donald Trump is still waiting for a reply from Iran to a US proposal aimed at ending the war before moving on to talks about more contentious issues, including Iran's nuclear program. Both Mr. Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio said they expected an answer as soon as Friday, but Iranian officials have yet to announce any response. Joining us now are North America correspondent Peter Bowes and Mina Joshangani from the BBC Persians service. Welcome to you both. Mina, to you first. Is there any indication that Iranian officials will respond anytime soon?
We have not heard anything from the Iranian side yet, except for saying that we are reviewing our response to this memorandum of understanding, and we will pass our response to the Pakistani mediators to pass on to the Americans. However, Foreign Minister Araghchi has accused the Americans of sacrificing diplomacy for unwise, what he dubbed as unwise military adventures, referring to what happened a couple of days ago in the Strait of Hormuz. And let's not forget that Iranians are also monitoring the situation, and they know that the time is not really working for President Trump. They know that he wants to have something really valuable to talk about when he goes to Beijing very soon. Then there is a World Cup. Then he's going to have the midterm elections, and all of these made Iranians a bit bolder, not knowing that they can kick the can down the road, hoping that maybe down the road something is going to change in their favor, because Iranians are pro at killing time. They have been doing this game, playing this game before the nuclear deal in 2015, and then before the war in June, and before this new round of war. So Iranians know what they are doing. They are hoping that things are going to change, but let's not also make this mistake that the threshold of pain is the same with Iranians and Americans, because Iran as a state and as a nation have been under sanctions, the most severe sanctions during the past 2 decades. So the authoritarian regime in Iran is going to have Iranians eat dirt before they will capitulate. This is not a perk or not an advantage that President Trump has because of the political and economical pressure on him.
OK, Mina, thank you. Peter, to you, what's the Trump administration saying? Is there any sense of nervousness at the lack of response?
I think there's a sense of frustration. The administration, White House, Donald Trump, they've had nothing to say today. But looking over the last couple of days, certainly the tone of the rhetoric, the temperature seems to be rising somewhat. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying, "I hope it's a serious offer," referring to Iran's response to the framework that we understand is being discussed now, the framework for future negotiations. The president, again, over the last couple of days, using rather stronger language, saying that if they don't get their deal signed fast, we'll knock them out a lot harder and a lot more violently in the future, returning to that language that we've heard several times from the president over recent weeks, that the bombing could restart if there isn't a deal, if there isn't an agreement to end this war. And really, as we've just been hearing, the pressure on the president in this country is largely domestic. The midterm elections appear to be several months away, distant future may be, but those campaigns locally are starting around the country and people are thinking about how they'll vote in November. And the opinion polls show the majority of Americans disagree with the way that the president has conducted this war, although most say that they agree with his goal of not allowing Iran to get a nuclear weapon. Nevertheless, it is becoming increasingly damaging for this president the longer the war goes on.
Peter Bowes, Mina Jashangani, thank you. The Interior Ministry in Bahrain says it has arrested 41 people, accusing them of links with Iran's Revolutionary Guard. Iran fired at targets in Bahrain and other Gulf Arab states after the US and Israel launched a war against Iran in late February. Here with more is our correspondent Caroline Davis, who is in Dubai. Hi, Caroline. So what more can you tell us?
Well, Bahrain had found itself targeted from the very beginning of this conflict by Iran after that offensive from the US and Israel on Iran. So from very, very early in the conflict, the US naval base in Bahrain was targeted. And since then, Bahrain has made it very clear that they have very little tolerance for anyone who shows any form of sympathy with Iran. In fact, it was only just last month that Bahrain made the decision to strip 69 people of their citizenship for showing some form of sympathy towards Iran. Now, we've had this announcement from the Ministry of the Interior saying that they have dismantled an organisation accused of links to Iran's Revolutionary Guard, saying that they've arrested 41 of their suspected members. They've said that this is in accordance with previous investigations carried out by the prosecutor's office in case of espionage on behalf of foreign entities. We've also seen messages of support from Kuwait and from Saudi Arabia, but one human rights activist that I spoke to, who's based outside of the country, was raising concerns with me about the amount of crackdown that we have been seeing in Bahrain, and concern too about the individuals and who exactly is being picked up in these crackdowns. And it does appear at the moment that, as I say, Bahrain seems to be showing very little tolerance, and these crackdowns are continuing.
Caroline Davis in Dubai, thank you. Lebanese official media say Israel has launched new strikes in Lebanon, including outside Beirut, killing at least 7 people. The strikes came after Israel's military called on residents of 9 villages in the south to evacuate, warning that it would act forcefully against Hezbollah. The militant group said it targeted northern Israel with a drone in response to repeated Israeli attacks. The violence taking place despite a nominal truce between Israel and Lebanon. Our correspondent Hugo Bishega reports from the site of an airstrike outside Beirut.
This is the building that was hit by an Israeli airstrike here in the town of Saksakir, and they've just finished the rescue operation. Now, residents have told us that 3 families who had been displaced because of the war were living here in this building that has been completely destroyed. Now, the victims of this attack include a child who was 2 years old. Now, attacks like this are happening every day across southern Lebanon. The ceasefire here has failed to stop the war. Now, Israel says it is targeting Hezbollah, accusing it of violating the deal, but often it's civilians who are being killed. And Hezbollah has been responding by launching rockets and drones into northern Israel, and also against Israeli troops occupying parts of southern Lebanon. And there have been new evacuation warnings issued by the Israeli military for towns in southern Lebanon, an indication that these Israeli attacks are likely to continue.
Whether you are joining us on YouTube, TikTok, Sounds, radio or TV, thanks for your time. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the Iran War Today.